So what is up, guys? Suda the Savage back, and you know what we got today? We got a W. Saints got that W, a huge 38-3 victory over the Green Bay Packers in Week 1 as the Saints start the season off 1-0. You know, a whole lot to get into this game. Of course, the main narrative, could Jameis Winston fill in for Drew Brees? Well, we'll talk about that later, but anyways, got to get to a general recap of the game, individual player stats, and then, of course, the final grade for both teams. So without further ado, let's get this video started. All right, so starting out with a general recap of the game. So starting off, the Green Bay Packers, they ended up winning the coin toss. They elected to defer, so Saints ended up getting first ball. And on the very first drive, you know, I saw a couple of passes from Jameis Winston. You know, he hit Marquez Callaway for one pass, and that was actually the only catch that Marquez Callaway would have the whole game. But Jameis Winston was also scrambling on the first drive, so that was definitely a huge shock. We ended up making some progress, but we get to a 4th and 7 on the Green Bay 26, and Aldrick Rosas kicks the 44-yard field goal. So we go up 4-0. The Packers, they go on a drive. We get a 3-and-out at first, but they go for it on 4th and 1. They convert that. So, but then we immediately stuff them on their next 3 plays, and they ended up punting. And then the Saints, they ended up going on a very long drive. We get to a 1st and goal at the Green Bay 3, and Jameis Winston just does a shovel pass for Alvin Kamara. He was kind of standing behind the defense, and he was just able to scramble his way into the end zone for the touchdown. So the Saints quickly have a 10-0 lead. So already I'm starting to get kind of excited, you know. Is this Saints team going to be better than it was last year on offense? Hopefully. But anyways, then the Green Bay Packers was a very quick drive, only lasted 5 plays, and they ended up punting. And then we ended up going on another very long drive. We get to a 4th and 7 at the Green Bay 41, and Sean Payton chooses to go for it. Now, I was a little bit nervous, but we do a screen pass to Jawan Johnson, and he was able to run it in for the first down. We keep on going, and then we get to a 4th and goal at the Green Bay 1. And what ends up happening is Jameis Winston, everyone's expecting us to hand it off to Kamara, but we didn't. Jameis Winston, he's standing around in the pocket, and he looks, passes it for Jawan Johnson perfectly, jumps for it, catches it, gets 2 feet down, and we get the touchdown. And the Packers, they have about 1:07 left in the first half, so they got a lot of damage. A big one was a connection between Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams. Now, fortunately for the Saints, Green Bay had to settle for the field goal, and it was only 17-3 going into the end of the first half. All right, so going into the second half, Green Bay, down by 14. They got the ball to start the second half, so of course they really need a touchdown. They go on a very long drive, get to a 4th and 3 at the New Orleans 31, and so they choose to go for it. They're saying, you know what, forget about the field goal. We got to get more points on the board. So he looks for Robert Tonyan. The pass was incomplete. However, flag did get thrown for a pass interference on Malcolm Jenkins. I looked at it a couple more times, and yeah, it was a pass interference. It's hard to deny it. Eventually, they get to the New Orleans 9, but on a 2nd and 7, Rodgers looks, and he gets intercepted by Paulson Adebo. So Paulson Adebo was making his debut, and when you pick off Aaron Rodgers in your debut, that's not something that many people can do. So honestly, I was really happy with Paulson Adebo, and honestly the defense in general, but I'll get to that later. But the Saints on that drive, we really did nothing as we ended up punting. But we did punt it, and it was inside the Green Bay 5, so it was a good punt. We get to a 3rd and 7, and Aaron Rodgers, he just says, fuck it, let's go deep. Throws it deep to Noah and gets intercepted by Marcus Williams. Like, literally, that was just what we call, like, a fair catch or, like, a fair interception. Or the arm punt. That's it, the arm punt. Because no one was around, and it was just an easy interception for Marcus Williams. He took that to the Green Bay 12. So, you know, on that drive, Jameis Winston looks around, and he finds Chris Hogan in the end zone for the 10-yard touchdown. So we go up 24-3. Now, as much as I wanted to say I was happy with that, Aaron Rodgers, he's known for pulling out a miraculous comeback. So I just wasn't ready to put a bow on it until the game was over. You know, watching the Jays and the Athletics, that series taught me that there's no such thing as a secure lead. So, you know, just hope you just got to shut it down. It ain't over till it's over. That's what the great Yogi Berra once said. Anyways, back to the game. The Packers, we get them to go 3-and-out, but they choose to go for it on a 4th down, on 4th and 1. And so Aaron Rodgers looking for Davante Adams. You know, what else is better? But Marshawn Lattimore knocks that ball right down. Incomplete. Turnover on downs. We get to a 3rd and 9. And Jameis Winston, he looks for Juwan Johnson in the end zone. Now, he made a terrible throw on this one and got picked off by Darnell Savage as it actually bounced off a defender, then went into the hands of Darnell Savage. But a flag was thrown for Zadarius Smith on roughing the passer. Now, I thought this was not really a great call on roughing the passer. I'll admit it was the wrong call, but the Saints, we get the ball back. 2nd and goal. This time he does find a wide open Juwan Johnson for the touchdown. The Packers, on their next drive, they ended up going 3 and out. So at this point, I'm thinking, yeah, okay, the Saints, they're just going to try to run out the clock as much as possible. And eventually we get to a 2nd and 10 at our own 45, and Jameis Winston unloads and goes deep. 55-yard bomb to Deontay Harris as he just absolutely burned Kevin King, man. Kevin King has had an absolutely awful streak in his last 2 games. Of course, he had the NFC Championship game against the Buccaneers where he just got fried the whole game. And then on that one route, he just got fried by Deontay Harris. And at this point, when the Packers get the ball back, Rodgers, he's done for the day. They put in Jordan Love. And in 6 plays, yeah, nothing. They ended up punting. Then the Saints, we ended up going 3 and out. We punted. Then Green Bay goes on a very long drive. They get to a 1st and goal at the New Orleans 5, but Jordan Love fumbles it, and the Saints recover it, and then we just need the clock out to win the game, 38-3. This was just like I thought about this like when the Saints beat the Bucs on Sunday Night Football. Not many people expected the Saints to win this one, but we came out guns a-blazing with an absolute convincing statement win to start the season out 1-0. That's what's going to get you up the power rankings. Win over one of the top Super Bowl contenders. That's what I love. That's what I love to see. On to individual player stats. All right, so on to individual player stats, starting off with Jameis Winston. So today, he was fairly accurate. I was pretty happy with how he played today, except for the one pass that got intercepted by Darnell Savage. That was really my only flaw against him today. But other than that, I thought he did well. He threw for 148 yards and 5 touchdowns. A big theme in this was, of course, the rush game is always going to be strong in New Orleans, even though there's no Latavius Murray. Tony Jones Jr. did a fantastic job filling that in, but I'll get to that later. But Jameis Winston, he was like the first quarterback since 1948 to throw for under 150 passing yards and still have 5 touchdowns in a game. He didn't kill us. So, I was happy with how he did in his first game. Anyways, on to the rushing game. Alvin Kamara was the lead rusher with 83 rushing yards, but no rushing touchdowns. Tony Jones Jr. followed up with 50 rushing yards. Jameis Winston, not really known for being a scrambler, ended up getting 37 yards, and then Taysom Hill only had 1 yard. Then on to the receiving game. Lead receiver was Deontay Harris with 72 yards and 1 touchdown, followed by Juwan Johnson with 21 yards and 2 touchdowns. Adam Trautman had 18 yards and a touchdown. Marquez Callaway only had 1 catch. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't expect even though I was hyping up Marquez Callaway in my Week 1 predictions, I wasn't that shocked that he only had 1 reception. He's going up against Jair Alexander, one of the best corners in the game. I didn't expect him to get a whole lot, and I was right, and it sucked to see it, but it is what it is. Then we had Chris Hogan, 1 reception, 10 yards and a touchdown. Alvin Kamara had 3 receptions for 8 yards and the shovel pass for a touchdown. Now, of course, with Drew Brees, he was always going to look for Alvin Kamara as a check down in his later seasons because his arm just wasn't the same. And so this year when I'm doing my Saints recaps, I'm not going to be talking as much about Alvin Kamara in the receiving game because he's not going to be playing as much as one. But hopefully this year he will be able to get his first 1,000-yard rushing season. Now I know that's pretty shocking. He's never had a 1,000-yard season. But, he does most of his damage in the air, so is what it is. Ty Montgomery had 1 reception for 5 yards, and then Tony Jones Jr., 1 reception for 3 yards. And then the defense. Man, Aaron Rodgers was just silenced. This defense did really well. We only allowed 3 points. Rushing game for Green Bay was absolutely nothing. And same with the passing game. It was, they got more yards than New Orleans, but in the end, Saints ended up winning 38-3. So this defense was absolutely kick-ass. The secondary... a common trend that I saw with the Saints secondary from the first few weeks from 2017 and 2020 seasons is that for the first few games, the Saints secondary was always so bad. It would always take us a few games until our secondary would finally get it together. Well, we got it together today. Now, Is this going to be a fluke? Is it going to be a trend? I hope it's going to be a trend. I think it's going to be a trend for the Saints because that secondary now is absolutely loaded. And yeah, that's about it. But like I said, earlier I said I was really happy with Paulson Adebo, in his debut. A lot of pressure going in that because, Marshawn Lattimore, he missed a little bit of the game, with possibly like an injury. He was sidelined for a bit, and Paulson Adebo did an amazing job filling in. Same with like Desmond Trufant, Marcus Williams, Malcolm Jenkins. The whole secondary was absolutely awesome today. So happy with that. Now talking about the Packers, Aaron Rodgers, that might have been his worst start. Barely had 50% completion percentage, 133 yards, no touchdowns, and 2 picks. Jordan Love, for what he did, he wasn't too bad. Had 68 passing yards, no touchdowns, no picks. Lead rusher for Green Bay was A.J. Dillon with 19 yards, followed by Kylan Hill with 14. Aaron Jones only had 9 rushing yards, and then Randall Cobb had 1 rushing yard. So, am I shocked that the Green Bay Packers had nothing in the rush game? No. Even though they were playing catch the whole game, the Saints, our pass rush is one of the best in the league. So I wasn't really that shocked that Green Bay couldn't get anything going in the rushing game. When we faced off against them in Week 3 last year, it was kind of the same thing. They got nothing on the ground, although this time they got nothing in the air. Anyways, on to receiving. Lead receiver was Davante Adams, 5 receptions for 56 yards, and, no receiver had a touchdown, followed by Randall Cobb, 1 reception for 32 yards. Mercedes Lewis had 1 reception for 19 yards, followed by Amari Rodgers, 1 reception for 19 yards. MBS, he had 3 receptions for 17 yards. Lazard had 16. Malik Taylor with 14. Aaron Jones with 13. Robert Tonyan with 8 yards, and then A.J. Dillon with 7. Aaron Rodgers, Davante Adams, even though, of course, he's his favorite target, the Saints did a really good job at containing him, and that was definitely a big concern. Of course, I talked about before how in the beginning of seasons, our secondary is usually pretty bad. This time I was happy that we were able to limit Davante to 56 yards. Then on to the defense. Yeah, Green Bay's defense just was not really existent. Now, the pass game wasn't exactly huge by the Saints, but you couldn't stop the ground game. And that was something I knew the Saints would abuse because last year, Green Bay had an underwhelming pass rush. So I knew the Saints could abuse that on the rush game. And so overall, Saints just completely kicked ass. And so now I got to give a final grade for this. So for the Saints offense, I'm going to give them a 9 out of 10. I really think the passing game could have been a little bit more, which is why I'm holding them back from giving them a 10 out of 10. But rush game was strong, and the pass game was good enough. No turnovers, even though we really should have had 1. So that's why I'm giving the offense a 9 out of 10. The defense, I'm going to give that a 10 out of 10. Shutting down the league MVP, one of the best receivers in the game, shutting down one of the best offenses in the game is worthy of giving a 10 out of 10. Green Bay, I'm going to give their offense and their defense a 1 out of 10. Yeah, it's really self-explanatory. When you're scoring 3 points against the Saints, that's not good. Now, I know the Saints, we have a good defense, but, it's always really bad at the beginning. Not this time. And so, overall grade, Packers get a 1 out of 10. And the Saints, overall, I'm going to give them a 9.5 out of 10. It was a really good game played. And I forgot to mention Aldrick Rosas. He made all his kicks, so good on him. On to the outro. And that is going to wrap up my video for today. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you want to see my Week 1 predictions, link to that will be in the description below. If you like this video, drop a like on it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Comment down below what you thought of the Saints game. Who would you give the MVP to for the game? I'm going to give that to the whole defense. I'm not going to give it to I can't just give it to one player on defense. I'm going to give it to the whole defense because shutting down the Packers 3 points, that's amazing. As always, make sure to follow me on Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok at Brendan Suter. Thank y'all for watching. Have a great day. Who Dat Nation 1-0, eating them dubs is